Hey guys, welcome back. Carter, Bit Trippin' here with Ray. We got him a mic. We got kind of a messed up setup here with the switchboard being part of Streamlabs. We do have the Rodecaster coming, so then we'll have proper clear mics, and it's going to be a minute though for that. But we're going to pause whenever Ray's got questions. That way you guys can hear him, because this is going to get where it's just not me explaining about crypto. We're actually going to be using a card today and going through setting up a miner on that on a couple different algorithms. We're going to be doing FHAT, we're going to be doing Ravencoin, we'll probably do Ergo, a couple of the different ones. And as I'm going through that with them, Ray's going to be setting this up. This is the new 6600 XT. We have also the RTX 3080. We're going to do the 6600 XT today, though. This is a brand new card out. This is the Radeon 6600 XT. It's from PowerColor. It's called the Hellhound. We'll get you guys some quick B-roll on that way you can see what this looks like. It's got a single 8-pin power connector. Heard some good news about this card. It's effectively the replacement for like the RX 588 gig when it comes to the performance on FHAT. It should be around 32 mega hash. I have no idea what the performance is on Ravencoin. We're going to find that out today. But let's get into this build. Here's a quick one from today's video sponsor, and then we'll get into it.
This episode is sponsored by Compass Mining, the company that makes Bitcoin mining accessible for everyone. The world is paying attention to Bitcoin miners lately. Mining difficulty is down and profitability is up. There's almost never been a better time to be a miner. Getting started with Compass is easy. You just purchase a machine, pick a hosting facility, and let them do the work. So if you're ready to start mining Bitcoin today, head over to compassmining.io.
All right, guys, we're going to get right into this one with the Hellhound 6600 XT. I'm going to let Ray put the riser together. And just to give you a quick overview of what we got going here, we got the test bench that we have. This has the Gigabyte GA H110-D3A motherboard in it. It is a 6-card motherboard for GPU mining. This was a low production unit. It came out kind of the end of 2018. There wasn't a ton of them. It was the LGA 1150 CPU. So I mean, like this is or 1151, I think, on this the CPU. But there wasn't a lot of it. But what we wanted to do when I built this setup here is when you're doing testing, especially if you're going to test cards, this is really back to you, Ray, is that you want something that kind of mimics the mining rig kind of build. So you want something that's probably a motherboard that you're going to use in your miner. And then if you're doing testing, like the CPU that we have in here is a Celeron, which is like the bottom tier of like Intel. Like it's like, this is like a $43 after tax processor. This is like the cheapest you can get, because most of the mining that we do with GPU mining, it doesn't require a lot of CPU power. Now, some people can kind of what they call dual mine, or like a tri mine, where they mine on the CPU, mine on the GPU, two different algorithms. And then there's also like hardware, like hard drive mining, like Chia mining, that kind of stuff, which takes proof of space. It's like where we were talking proof of work with like Bitcoin and Ethereum. And there's proof of stake if you have the coins. There's also like proof of space. They call it space and time. Kind of funny and cliche, but it is literally on the hard drive, and it like uses the space on a hard drive. Not super popular right now. There's a high cost of participation in that. You need tons of hard drive space, like literally thousands of dollars of hard drive space to maybe be able to participate. So it's not something we're going to be doing here on this one. We're just focusing on the GPU testing. But just to give everybody an idea of this test bench is set up just like you would have like in a 6-card. So it's not like a gaming PC or anything like that. So that's the test bench. We have the BBP multimeter here, which tests the riser power and the GPU's 8-pin power here. This multimeter will handle 2 8-pins. So if you had a GPU that has more power requirement on it, it'll also be able to receive it. And it's powered by the power supply that's in this unit, which is in a Thermaltake 850 watt power supply. This is a gold rated power supply. Different power supplies will have different ratings, and all it means is its efficiency when it's when it's close to its load that it has. So platinum is really nice. Titanium's the highest. Most people center around the gold and platinum just for efficiency. If you have a bronze power supply, it's a lot less efficient. Just means that the power that you're using isn't as efficient with regards to, like, if it's an 850 watt bronze power supply, you're going to be using a little more power. The capacitors and stuff that are in there, and that is high quality. And let's put it this way: every bronze power supply I've ever used, close to the wattage that it's rated, I've usually burned up. Like, it's just died.
Yeah.
So, like, the golds usually hold up a lot better if you're using a commercial or a consumer power supply. So consumers, like if you went to Best Buy or something, or Micro Center, and you're buying like a gaming component power supply, that's what this is. And then there's other power supplies that we can put up on the screen that are like from Parallel Miner. Shout out to them. We have affiliate links with Parallel Miner if you need hardware that way. But they have server style power supplies that are made for like computer servers. You know, like you'd have like if you think of like a computer server rack, like in a movie, you know, like they're like the hackers trying to hack into like the big server room. Those have a lot more. I would call it kind of enterprise battle tested. They're made to run forever, you know, type of stuff. They have a different like service level to them. Those have been kind of converted. There's connectors and stuff that now you can get for those power supplies. You take them out of the server and just leave them here on the table and hook to your mining rig. And those are platinum rated. So, and they're usually cheaper. Like this thing could be a couple $100, like $300 up to for like 1,000 watt version of this, where the commercial enterprise ones that I'm talking about might be $180 for like a 2,400 watt, which is like more than 3 times more powerful than that.
Right.
So much better solution if you're trying to build something with a lot more power requirement. But just giving everybody a heads up of what this is. This is a Windows build also. That's mainly for the testing that we're going to be doing today. And I always like kind of showing people that are more familiar. You've used Windows, I would assume, like at school and stuff. So we're going to start with Windows, and then we'll get into further in the series of using a mining OS. In one of the next videos, when we build out an actual mining rig, we'll configure simple mining, and then we'll also do Hive to get some exposure on both sides of it. So you guys want to stay tuned for that. But let's get into this build. I'll let, before we start, do you have any kind of questions or anything? Or do you just want to get right into the build?
Get right into it.
He says get right into the build. I will turn on his mic here in a second here when we're building it. So if we capture anything during the build here, you guys will be able to see that. All right. All right. We got it plugged in. We got it booted up. We're now in Windows. And the very first thing that we want to do is make sure that there's a driver set up for this card. Now, what I like to do, especially if you're in Windows and a new card, is like right-clicking on your start button there, and you just go to Device Manager. So remember, right-click is your friend on any computer. It always gives you another set of menus and options. Right-click on the start, the Windows Start button there will give you options to get into like the system settings and stuff like that. So we're going to look under display adapters. It's coming up as a Microsoft Basic Display Adapter. So all these little display adapters here are the different things. Here is the computer, right? It's like the disk, the computer settings, the hard drive settings, the monitor. Like it's just giving you the device manager. It literally is what it is, saying it's a device manager. So under display, which makes sense, this is the graphics card, it's the display. What we want to see there is something that says 6600 XT. So right now it's just saying, hey, I'm giving you a display, and it's very basic, but there's no like advanced drivers loaded to make this thing do what it's supposed to do, from performance and all that. So we're going to want to go out to the internet, just open up like Chrome or Google or any of that, and then can't see that. There we go. We're going to go to Radeon drivers, and that's going to bring us to the AMD page. And it's going to get us right to the page where we want to download drivers. And all we got to do is just tell it what type of driver. Well, this is an AMD 6000 series graphics card, and it's the 6600. Most of it's pretty user-friendly. I mean, that's the user interface kind of tells you. And then this is the RX of that 6600 series. This is the 6600 XT graphics card. So we're going to grab that. We're going to submit that now that we've kind of set that up. And it's going to come right to here. And this is the Windows 64-bit edition. And there's always at least for AMD cards. So there's AMD and there's Nvidia. That's like the RTX cards. It's usually with the green colors, and then the AMD's like the red colors. So there's things about red green separation there. On AMD's website, they always have like the optional, like, hey, we're still developing this up top. Now you can download that and it's the most current. Sometimes it's a little flaky. I'd say go with the one that works for this GPU. Actually, and it looks like here it has auto detect install. We don't want that. It looks like the only one that's available for it right now is the optional, which is hilarious. So we're going to download that. So this graphics card just came out, so it's like literally bleeding edge. So they included this design as part of that driver, but it's not on the official release driver yet. And that's sometimes the hardware can outpace the software. So it's like with anything, like you buy it the first version of something, sometimes it's a little flaky. It works the same way with this. We're gonna open that up. We're just gonna let that dry. This is what I always call when I say next finish. It's kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna take the defaults on all of this. Next, let it go through its stuff. It's gonna unpack it to the computer locally, and then it'll run the software to set the drivers up for this. All right, so that came up now. Let's go ahead and install the 6600 XT drivers. Now this will take a few minutes and we'll let this run through. It's installed. That configures this for this particular computer. Now this whole process is like, there is none of this process with like the Linux OS. So like if it's a mining OS, like simple mining or Hive, we literally plug this in. It auto sets everything up. We don't have any of this trouble. So like if anybody's watching this and they're debating if they ever should mine in Windows, I would not. If you can avoid it, do not mine in Windows. Like just do it in one of the simple mining or Hive OSs. I would do those. But for this testing purposes, especially for the diversity of quickly changing algorithms and stuff, we're going to do it in Windows, and then we'll rerun this test in Linux, and you'll see when we go to do that how much easier it's going to be. You're like, why would we ever do this in Windows? It took a lot more time, and it just seems like a waste. But you'll see it from the testing purposes. All right, so that driver's installed and it'll reboot. Usually you have to do a reboot, and you can see the difference on the screen. There's a lot more visible. It's just a higher resolution,
Yeah.
You know what I mean when I say resolution?
Yeah, like the sharpness of it.
Yeah, sharpness of it,
yeah.
exactly. So it's now at 1920 by 1080, which is sharper. Before it was like 800 by 600. It was like everything was real big. That's how you can usually tell that a driver's not installed or something. Like, what the hell? Why is this all not working that way? So one of the first checks I like to do is that whole right click on Windows key again there, and then go to the device manager and back over to the display adapter. And now it says 6600. Now that's pretty sharp from where we're standing right now, so I know it's kind of hard to read there. What we can do is right click on the desktop, go to display, and we can set this to, right now it's at I think 100%. Let's do 175. Might be too big. Let's go down to 150. Might be a little better. Let's see if that works. There we go. Now we can read it. So 6600 XT, that's what we were looking for. We want that installed. We know the driver's good. So now we could technically start doing some testing with this card. One of the very first things that we do is you've got to first kind of establish what are you going to mine. Well, there's a couple of different ways to find out what you're going to mine. There's literally a website called What to Mine, and it takes your graphics card stats of what they've tested, and then they calculate what the current network difficulty is. That's that whole thing where I was saying, where if a lot of people are doing it, if network difficulty is really high, and then your yield is low, you get less coin for your available hash power.
Right.
And then you got to worry about the price. So if you get low yield but high price, it might be more profitable than something that you get a higher yield on but has lower price. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's just it literally is just a math problem, but all of this stuff really is. It's understanding where the variables are at. Like, man, I'm getting a lot of this coin, but it ain't worth nothing. right? And that's, you know, you'll hear a word in mining, especially GPU mining, called spec mining. That's just speculative mining, which means I'm going to speculate that this coin might be worth something in the future. So I'm going to take the chance or the risk to spend my money and hardware to mine that and get a ton of yield. That happens to not be worth that much money. And then at some point, the development team, the people that are doing something with it, they're using the coin, then it gets some kind of notoriety or it gets some kind of use case, and then as people have demand on it, and then now people want those coins that you have, and you have a crap ton of them. And if you have a crap ton of coins, it's called getting a bag, right? You get a bag of coins, right? So there's a little its own little microcosm of like nomenclature and just words that are associated to the space that you'll start to learn over time. HODL, right? The word HODL.
Yeah.
Yeah. You remember what it means?
Hold on for dear life.
Yeah, you gotta say that again, dude.
Hold on for dear life.
So HODL, you'll hear other think your bag is like what's your bag in crypto, those kind of things. Like you'll really crypto Twitter. I don't know if you have a Twitter account. I mean, but if you get a Twitter account and start following some of those different crypto, there's a whole thing called crypto Twitter, which is just a lot of people that are real long on crypto and they sit there and just shoot shit with each other a lot. But it's like a whole bunch of degens. Like people are just fighting on different sides. There's a whole like culture thing to it, which is fine. I kind of stay on the observe and report side of it, meaning I don't get too caught up in the politics of like crypto Twitter, but it is interesting to see where people stand. I like really messing with the hardware, and that's why I like teaching to people is the hardware side of it, to be a participant, and for your hardware time and money and stuff you invest, you get a coin, and that coin happens to be worth money, and you can either exchange that or use it on those different networks. And that's kind of what on the mining side is. But yeah, you'll see some funny stuff on crypto Twitter out there. But let's get in, repivot here to the card. One of the first things that we want to do is, I know this has mining software on there, but we're going to go from scratch here. So we're going to go out to the web and we're going to go to something called Bitcoin Talk. You just Google that. It actually, I went straight to it. I didn't even Google it. I just went straight to it. But on here is a forum that's mining altcoins. And you just kind of scroll down under alternative cryptocurrencies, mining altcoins, and then in here is going to be software. Now it's kind of, they almost need their own like sub forum that shows you where the software is at, because it's kind of blasted in here with other stuff, but this is kind of where everything's posted at. And what we're looking for is Team Red Miner. You can also find by just going like this, go to Google and go to Team Red Miner, and then that's Bitcoin Talk. They have their own websites, but the thing about Bitcoin Talk is it's like a monitored forum. And most people that were into mining started, like if they were going to write software around like crypto, especially on the mining side, they would make what they call an announcement post, an post on Bitcoin Talk. It was kind of like there's 1,000 places on the internet to get lost on, and half of them are trying to scam you out of something. Here's one site that you go to that you have pretty high confidence that people are testing it and making sure that it's not something trying to screw you over. So that's why I always go back to it. And then what you'll see is, I wanted to give you that preface it because this AN post here, you see that ANN, that's what that means. It's an announcement post. Team Red Miner this is where they came out here and they'll release it. So they're usually the very first post on here, and they'll just talk through it. Hey, it's available to download here. Here's some resources that you can go to if you want to know how to mine with this particular piece of software. So you got your hardware that's in front of us, and then you got your software that leverages the hardware to do what you're trying to have it do. So my Red Team Miner will mine on this graphics card for these type of algorithms. So you'll see like Hash and Kapow and Autolike and NimQ and Crypto Night. All these are just different algorithms that this thing will process. And those algorithms happen to be the consensus foundation for different cryptocurrencies. So it's like it sits underneath it, right? So like Bitcoin is SHA-256, that's its algorithm. The Ethereum is hash, that's its algorithm, right? So that's the way they have work part and parcel with proof of work. Like proof of work is using an algorithm. That confuses people. I've seen people respond back to me like, dude, I'm trying to find out how to mine Ethereum, but I keep seeing this thing about ETH hash. It's like they're the same. It's the algorithm that allows you to mine for ETH hash. So you can come down here. These are like kind of, they're pretty informative. It tells you what GPUs they support and all that. This is a good question. Actually, if this GPU actually is supported by this. I don't even know if it is. It should be, because this is a pretty brand new GPU. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to the download of this. We're not going to worry about all that. We're going to just pull down the latest download. Now, most of the downloads will then redirect you to GitHub. GitHub is like just the center repository for code. So you can go out there and look up the code. And then they'll do these releases. So this is a release of this, and the latest one's down here. We're looking for the Windows version, which is win.zip. And then there's usually a Linux version. So you got two different operating systems. Windows is the one that we're on right now. We download that. It's going to go right to here. And then I usually click this little button here to show in folder. So it'll take us on the computer where this is at. And then we can right click on that and extract it. Here we go. Right, extracted that. And then that opens this up. And now all of this looks like there's a lot going on here, but really all that we care about is the configuration file. Now, normally we would go out and set up a wallet, which we can actually do real quick for this. We'll go out here and do Exodus wallet. Just Google it. And that's when I come up here, exodus.com. We'll download this. We're going to download the Windows version. Quickly do that. We'll open that up. And this establishes a local wallet for this computer. Now that wallet will also be able to be synchronized with like your phone. So like if you wanted to download Exodus on your phone, when this is installed, you could actually scan the QR code there and then pair them. So then you'd be able to see this on your phone too. So this is installed. Exodus. It's now an application on this computer. We're going to launch it. We can get rid of this, just minimize this. This is launching. So the very first time you're in it, it's going to ask you a couple things. It's going to ask you can restore from a backup. When you actually get coins into this, you're going to want to back the wallet up. That'll be those 12 words that make up that wallet. We've talked about that before. Yeah. That's the most important thing in the world. You got to understand with wallets, and I'll switch over real quick just to make sure people understand this. This is kind of an explainer series. With wallets, one of the most important things is understanding the fact that it's just a window to the blockchain. When you establish a wallet on any blockchain, you have your public keys, which are what people send stuff to you, and then you have your private key, your most important thing. That private key, they've created an interface essentially to convert that long alphanumeric key into a series of words. So then you don't have to remember that long crazy key. You just write down those 12 words. And then that means as long as you have that, if this computer got messed up or destroyed or stolen or this house burned down, as long as you had those words somewhere that's safe and you could restore it, doesn't matter. You could just fire up a new computer, re-download Exodus, hit restore from backup, and then just type those words in. And all that's doing is pairing you back to your wallet on the blockchain. So you don't lose anything that way. But also, it's a risk, right? Like if somebody finds those 12 words, that's the keys to the kingdom. So there's ways to pair that with a hardware wallet and go through that in another video, which is a device that's like a two-factor authentication. It's just like like a revolving token or something like that, right? Where you have to have that physical device, and then you're trying to send or receive, you're like, yep, that's the code. You can do it now, so that way somebody can't steal your stuff. So I just wanted to pivot real quick on that to make sure people and yourself knew as a refresher about wallets in general. Let's go back here. So we're going to go up here real quick, and we're just going to say Ravencoin. All right, let's do Ethereum first. Ethereum. And then we would do a receive address. Remember, this is a wallet. You are receiving coins to this. So that you hit the receive there, and then this gives you a unique code. You just hit this little thing to copy that. That puts it in your clipboard on your computer. That way you could copy it back into what's relevant under this particular miner, which is what we're looking for. We're looking for start ETH. So we're going to right click on this. And we're going to edit it. We're going to hit more info and then run anyway. And then that looks like a lot of stuff. Don't worry about any of that. The only thing you care about is right down here where this address is. That address is going to go to a test address for the developer of this wallet. We do not want that to go there. We want to highlight all the way to that little X on this particular wallet, because that's the start of the wallet. That -U is the user, and then there's a space, and then there's the wallet. Okay,
Yep.
So we're going to paste that over that. Okay, syntax is important here. Syntax is just the way a computer processes what it's looking at. So all these little spaces and all that stuff matters. If you ever are messing around with a miner and you're like, shit, this thing keeps telling me something's wrong, more than likely it's something in this that's messed up. Like this, like this over here is backspace and like the P's next to it or something. And you just gotta make sure that it's perfect, because this stuff doesn't have a lot of safety on the failure side there. It'll just say that it can't find it. And we're going to name this, after the dot is naming this particular miner, we're going to just name it 66XT. This is the card, right? 6600. So then we see it on the pool, we'll be able to see that it's there. And instead of EU, we're going to go to US. Now, on the pool, which is, let's jump over to this real quick because this is going to lose people and yourself. We got a wallet. That's what we just put in there, that address. So we are going to say we're going to mine, and that's going to go somewhere. We want it to come to us. That's why we got a wallet. So the next logical question is,
How do you mine?
how do you mine? Where do you mine?
Yeah.
Here you go. Where do you mine? Well, that's the pool. So the pool is where we're going to send that. We're going to get the work from to work on proof of work of Ethereum, because that's the one that we're choosing right now. And we're going to go to a pool because we want to participate with a whole bunch of other people and have our collective hash power be able to win blocks, and then we'll win a portion of that because we're contributing. So it's like everybody's showing up to the ball field that day, and you all get a ring if you win, right? Like everybody's coming to the same game. They're all working on the same game, and hopefully somebody in that team wins that game, and then you all share in the victory of it, proportional to what you are contributing, right? So somebody's, let's just say out of 100, right? This is 1 out of 100, right? You get 1% of the winnings. Does that make sense? That's the way the pools work. Because it's like, what do you bring into the pool? What's the total of the pool? And then over a period of time, the pool will win blocks and will pay you back proportionally to that. And then there's pools sometimes will charge like a fee, like 2.5% of the fee. So then you're getting, in that case, 97.5% of the winnings that you should be owed to you for the pool side, right? So, and sometimes the miner itself that we just downloaded will take 1% also. So that your totality there is like 3.5%. So now you're like 96.5% of what I'm owed, I'm getting paid because I'm paying the pool and I'm paying the miner fee, right? And those are different. Like when you're downloading different miners and stuff, you kind of read the fine print, right? Like you're going through like, what am I paying this guy? He made the software or she made the software and made it available to everybody. So yeah, they got to get paid, right? Because otherwise, why would they make it? Sometimes people are awesome and contribute more or make it free for a certain period of time and stuff. But by and large, there's fees in that too. So when you're calculating your profitability on a card, you have to kind of take in the fact that I'm probably going to pay up to 5%, depending on the transaction fees when they're paying me and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like the stacked, actual cost. You have like a gross what you're going to make, and then you have a net of what you actually make, right? So there is some of that with this. Let's go back real quick. So the pool is what we're going to set up now. So the pool is already in here for this as an example, and that's what's kind of cool about some of these miners. They already pre-configure it for you. So pretty much all you're doing is just giving it a wallet address and just hit and go. On Ethermine, we can go to that site, right? So we can go over here and go to ethermine.org. And that's going to bring us to this. Is Bitfly is the company that owns it, and then they do Ethereum, Zcash, ETC, Beam, and Ravencoin. Okay, and then under here you can just hit let's start mining, and then it's going to show you how to connect to their server. And what I saw on that free thing, it was set up to Europe, and we don't want to send our bits and bytes to Europe, right? We want to send our proof of work to somewhere in the US. So we're going to go back over here. We're making sure. So that's where that us1.ethermine.org, and then a port. A port's kind of like at a warehouse. You have like where the docks are at, and the warehouse is the server in this case. Where do you come in at on the server? So 4444 is the port. It's just like an address to the server to be able to interact with it.
Right.
That's all those things are. I know this is a lot to take in, and you can always rewatch and we can retalk and stuff, but I'm trying to make sure that it's just you're not taking for granted like this stuff and it's like, oh, it just works. Like, to understand the components makes a lot of sense, because when you're troubleshooting stuff, like sometimes it's the port, like, oh shit, they changed the port. And that's just like, oh damn, the dock changed, right? I'm hitting the side of the building, I can't get in, right? You're like, that's what that number's for. And then like, that's just straight in without SSL security. They have ports, which is SSL port, which is socket secure layer. Okay, so that's a way to kind of authenticate from like if somebody was doing like a net inspect on your traffic that you're sending, like Charter or whoever you're using. If you're coming through SSL, it's just encrypted packets. Okay, because it's like a tunnel and they can't see into it. Right? They know they can hear things are moving through the tunnel, but they can't. They don't understand. It's just encrypted packets. So there are, most people usually use probably just straight stratum, but you can do that. And then there's like what they call failover ports, which is like that alt stratum port. So you could have in some of these miners, when you set them up, it'll say alternative, right? So you could have another line there that says stratum plus TCP us.ethermine.org :144444. And it's just another port saying that if you get a timeout on that for whatever reason, maybe it's being DDoS attacked or something, which is just somebody just hitting that port really hard, it'll fell over to the other one. So that's sometimes you'll see that on a miner, you'll see a second ability to do that, which you would just replicate everything and just change the port number. That's it. So let's save that. So we got the Ether mine saved and set up there, and we're going to close this little bat file. This is called a bat file. It's just a batch file. It's just going to run it top to bottom, this execution. So we'll just double click that. And now it runs those steps, and now it's connecting. It's connected to this pool. It gives us a few little warnings because it sees it's an AMD card, and it's trying to make sure that we are appropriately configured for like compute mode. These cards automatically have compute mode in them, so it's not that big a deal. Okay, that green thing says it's accepted a share. We have done work now, and we have sent it to the server, and it said, I accept what you've done. So it's right now calculating. Now what the very first phase here right now is we're doing this with no setting change. It's just running whatever the card's stock settings are. We're using a crap ton more power than we should. And right now it's averaging about 17 million hashes per second. That's kind of slow, to be honest. But we're going to configure this card here in a second. We're going to let it run one more cycle, and it's going to tell us its performance. And we're going to take a couple measurements down, and we're going to write them on the blackboard for we have them, and we can put them for everybody on the video. We're going to take a measurement of this card stock basic. Okay, so we're up to 28 mega hash. That's a lot better. And we can take a measurement now. So that's about 28 mega hash. I don't know where we per marker. Had it yesterday, and now it's gone. And it's gone. All right, so we'll just remember 28 mega hash. We can always rewatch the video here. We'll have her cut all this part out. No. Power of editing. We have stock 28 what? 35. This part's gonna get it up. All right, now let's do a quick close up on the power.
And this is the GPU. So the GPU itself, the port up here, is pulling 65 watts right now, running that. So that's pulling 65 watts, and that's on the PCI. So 65 watts on the PCI stock, and then on the riser, we're pulling 38.6. So that's the plus. I'll let you do that. You know how to do math. Sum those up. It was 103, right? All right, so it's 103 baseline stock, nothing changed. So we're going to switch this back.
Screen. And we're gonna turn this part off right here. And now we're going to change some settings. So we're going to keep that up where we can get to it. Close this. All right, close this. And we're going to go into Radeon software settings. And we're going to go into manual. Because what we're going to try to do is we're going to change some settings. We're going to get some GPU tuning going here. We're going to go into advanced controls. Don't worry about this. This is like getting into like crazy advanced, but all you have to do is you have to understand that you're going to change like three things. You're going to change the GPU's core, the memory, and then the power limit that's going through that. I mean, it's all there really is to it. But it looks like there's a lot on the screen here. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to drive this way, 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 way down. We're going to take this down to like 1400. It's 2600 right now. We're going to take this down to 1400, enter. We're going to bury the voltage all the way down. Peel that all the way back down to 762. We're going to turn the VRAM up. Memory timing. We're going to set the advanced control here. And we're going to dial this up. Is that 24?
That's 2400.
Let's do 2300. Let's see if it's stable at 2300. And we're going to power tune. We're going to do a -3 here. To not mess with the fan tune or anything. I'm going to drag this over if I can see this. And we are going to apply those changes. And what I like to do is save these. I'm going to save this portfolio. And I'm going to save this as, I always save it as the memory speed that I put it at. So I'm going to say 2300. Because that's the most unstable part of this usually. It's because we're really overclocking the memory. And that might be just not where it can handle it. And we'll know that when we go to throw a load on it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a truck says it has this much weight capacity. Let's see if it, and maybe we got it in the truck and it lowered it. Let's see how it drives, right? So this is where we're at right now on that. So we're tuning it to get efficiencies. So now we're going to double click that again, see if this thing's stable running with those settings. So before we were at 28, running that on the core and that on the memory, which is 65 and 38. And then we're going to go back and we'll check our measurements here. And that's why a tool like that is really good, because it's software tries to calculate what it's being pulled from the bottom here, and it knows what it's being pulled from the top here because there's a sensor there. Yeah. So it's usually off a little bit. So this allows us to really truly trap, like, because we've segmented this card off the computer and we're capturing the actual powered output of this card. So it got the 18 like it normally does when it first boots up. And what we're looking for is a little over 30 mega hash, if we can, on this card, and a lot lower power usage. And we're going to see what we can actually drive this down to. Now I'm going to do a proper live stream. There we are. We're at 32.5 mega hash. So that was a nice little bump. So we can put the 32.5, and then we'll let that go. It says it's done auto tuning. Let's just push it one more time. At 32.5. Let's switch over to the power close up.
Here we are, down to 24 watts on the riser. And then 41.9 on the core. So that's a little over what, 65? 65.9 watts on the card totally, which is really, really good actually. So let's go one last test, and then we'll wrap this test up in this card on F hash, and we'll get right into Ravencoin real quick. So we're going to close this right here, and we're going to go here. We're going to try to drive this down just a little more in the memory. We're going to bury the memory to see if it's stable at 24. We're getting crazy over in these parts. We're going to take this down to 1200. We're going to take this to -5. What we're doing is just starving the card. We're starving it of power and seeing if we can maintain that performance. And there's a reason why this works this way. The GPU is made to do a whole bunch of stuff. Mining is very just specific to a task. So it doesn't necessarily need to have all the performance of the card, because you can't actually get the performance out of the card with like the core and stuff on like this algorithm. So we're gonna save that, and we're gonna pray that it works. So that's what you do. So this is essentially a lot of the iterative testing that you would do. So if you had a mining rig and you got new stuff, it literally pays you better to do this and optimize it, because you'll have less cost, and then you'll have more output. The fly's back, my dudes. We're dealing with the fly down here. What the hell is going on with the flies? So we're seeing that. It looked like it knocked it down too much. And so you see the startup, there was only 6 there. The 13. So yeah, that 1200 is too low. And we started too much. So I think we'll end up getting this a little more config. We could go through this for an hour of doing this. So I'm going to stop this right now. I'm going to take the win that we were able to get it to 32 at 65 watts. I'm going to see if we can get it down to 55, but I'll have to play with that a little differently. What we're going to do real quick, we're going to pull this back up to -3, and we're going to
apply this. Hit apply. We'll just delete it. I'm actually hidden it. Oh, it's the 1200. That's it. $13.50. Apply. We won't save that. Just run this real quick. So -3, $13.50. This will be the last test for Ethereum. We'll quickly do Ravencoin and then we'll wrap this video up because this video is going to be 40 minutes. And that's literally all there is to it. It seems like a lot though. There's a lot going on there, but it's I'm thinking that it's not. I think that's 1350 is still too low. We're going to cut all this. We'll cut it right after we say we're going to switch. Huh?
It's a Raven.
Yeah. All right. So this goes back to stock. So we're going to go back to automatic. No, we're not. We'll get right into Raven without changing the. So Kapow, label Kapow here. All right, so now we're going to get right into Ravencoin. You'd obviously do the same things. You'd switch your wallet and all that kind of stuff, fire it up. And then now we're going to get a baseline with this card on Raven without changing the settings. And then we'll do one optimization to it to try to lower power, just to show the differences here. So Raven performance on the 6600 XT right now is coming up here. So it goes and builds its DAG, which is a database that sits in memory for this algorithm. And it's going to be running here. We're going to make sure that it's going to get to, it's actually running the speeds that we want it to. VRAM clock. It might not be actually running the, looks like the clocks are still at 1300. Hold on real quick. It never did. Let's do. Okay. Let's make sure. All right, we're going to get right into Ravencoin now. We're going to click Raven. We'd set up our wallets and all that, and then we get right into it with the 6600 testing on Raven. And we'll see what Raven does. Now, this is a stock performance on Raven. That fly just keeps messing with us, doesn't it? Oh, look at man, it's all over you, dog.
It's
What are
crazy.
you gonna do? You have to dodge and weave that. Now let's see what this thing gets to. So we're at about 15.23 mega hash right now on Ravencoin. Now let's take a quick shot at what power is on this. A lot more power stock on the card being used. So this is on the GPU itself, 99 watts just coming from there. So on Raven, we'll just put, this is ETH. RVN stock is 15.5 for 99. And then let's switch it. And then 58.7.
So we're looking right at 157 watts, bone stock, if you don't change anything with this GPU on Ravencoin. So you're obviously going to want to change some settings here. Let's see if we can keep that close to 15 without
breaking the bank on power here. It looks like we're right at 15.5 mega hash. Shut that off. I can smell the card. You smell that? Get warm. Get warm up in these parts. Fly is about donezo, bro. All right. So we're going to go into default, manual, and we're going to come in here and we're going to change a few settings. We're going to change GPU clock. We are going to bring this down. You go to enable the advanced control, it gives me percentages here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do 1500. So bring it pretty far down. We're going to drop the voltage as low as it'll go again. So we don't want to use a ton of voltage. We are going to do some RAM tuning here. We're going to come in here and we're going to put in 2300 on the RAM also, same way. We're not going to touch the power of the tuning just yet. And we're going to apply that. Minimize that. Raven. Now, this will be the only power tuning that we're doing on this. I'm going to have a separate live stream for people caring about the 6600 on a deep dive test with multiple algorithms. And we'll have a separate thing on this. This is really just cradle to grave testing on a card in a single card standpoint in Windows to give you a basic concept and idea of just tuning and playing with settings to optimize your cards. There was 6 of these GPUs in a computer. You would be applying it to all of them at the same time.
Oh.
Right? So you're just trying to make sure they're all stable together. And part of the thing that you'll hear from people about the confusion of, doing this kind of stuff is, you'll have inconsistency. You'll have one GPU that just doesn't like those settings and you got to play around with it. And so you can target different GPUs in the software. You can say GPU 1 is at this speed, GPU 2 is this speed. You can imagine how much time, just on the time that we've spent doing one card,
Right.
that setting. So it's really setting yourself up for how long is this going to take you when you're doing this kind of stuff. So we're up to about 14 and a half. It looks like we peeled about some of it, but let's see for that 14 and a half. So it's about a 1 mega hash drop from 14 and a half, from 15 and a half, but how much power did we shave off? And this is what matters right now on a card like this, is did we shave some power off here? So power.
All right, so that is on the riser, right? 30, yep, the riser, 30 watts. And then on the PCIe, 50 watts. Not a little lower than 50. It's bouncing between 52, and the Ravencoin has a little fluctuate there, but between 38 to 50 watts. So you're going to probably average in the mid 40s. So this is a pretty decent setup for Raven. This is an 80 watt card or less, 75 to 80 watts for
14 and a half mega hash. I mean, it's not bad. This day and age and prices, not too shabby. All right, guys. So that was not so quick explainer on setting up a GPU, configuring a GPU, configuring a wallet. We did quite a bit in this episode.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give you the floor for a second. Is there anything? There's obviously a mountain of questions. I haven't let you talk much on it. We will have a video, I promise you guys, that will just go back and forth and take in your experience. And I'll have some questions set up for you. That way you can kind of respond to, it's a lot to take on.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot to take on, but I think as we are right now, I feel like I understand most of it. And then I think a lot of the getting used to is going to get used to like the numbers and just like knowing how to like configure it,
Yeah. So one of the tests that we'll do is on the 3080 Ti, the other card we have,
right.
You're going to do it all.
That's going to be very fun.
Yeah. So I will let Ray do the 3080 Ti this same way. I'm gonna sit back. He's gonna do the talking. So you're gonna be ready, and it's okay. We'll work through it. But it can be like, okay, I think it's this way, and then I'll answer the question. So on the 3080 Ti, if you guys like this series, it's going to be Ray doing the 3080 Ti. Same kind of setup. This build, we're not going to move this stuff. We'll do the 3080 Ti in the next video. That's it'll be an NVIDIA card for people that are wondering. That's also a card that has light patch rate protection, which reduces its capabilities with Ethereum. It's something that NVIDIA was trying to prevent people from buying it for mining. So they put like a hardware limitation or a software limitation on it to prevent mining. But on Ravencoin and other coins, it's not limited. So we'll be able to do some testing with that. Ray will be running that show, and I'm going to sit back. So you guys, if you guys like this, please like, subscribe. I know it's pretty long, but this is for the newer folks that are out there. I know that it's a lot to take in. This is supposed to be very information dense. Thanks for your feedback, guys. We will work on future videos as we go through explainers and stuff to maybe slow it down. But I want to make sure it's super information dense in this first one. Then Ray can go back over it a couple times as he's learning it and testing it with that. So again, thanks guys for the video, watching the video and sharing it. And we'll catch you guys on the next one.